Katillerin bile şöhret olabildiği bu dönemden faydalanan iki kardeş onlar. Menendez Kardeşler. Şöhretlerini de ailelerini öldürmelerine borçlular. Çok uzatmadan kim olduklarından ve ne yaptıklarından kısaca bahsedip röportajlarına geçeceğim. Zengin bir ailenin oğullarıydılar. Baba Jose Menendez hırslı, başarılı bir iş adamıydı. Çok çalışmış ve başarmıştı. Beverly Hills'te dünya starlarına komşuydular. Para, lüks yaşam, tatiller, öncelik. 80'lerde aile tam olarak Amerikan rüyasını yaşıyordu. Yine de her şey istedikleri gibi gitmiyordu. Başarılı baba Jose Menendez oğullarının da kendisi kadar başarılı olmasını istiyordu. Sadece istemiyor, onları buna zorluyordu. Oğulları onun etiketiydi. Ayrıca tüm bu çabanın boşa gitmeyeceğinin güvencesiydi. Kendisi ve karısı öldükten sonra tek mirasçı onlardı. Lyle ve Erik ise babalarının kafasındaki evlat profilinden çok uzaktı. Sürekli başlarını belaya sokuyorlar, baba Jose Menendez ise arkalarını topluyordu. Ceza almalarına rağmen durulmuyorlar, sık sık karakolluk oluyorlardı. Cezalarını ödemek, hatta bazen mağdurlara şikayetçi olmaması için para vermek baba Jose'ye düşüyordu. Okulda da çok başarılı değillerdi. Erik lisedeydi. Lyle ise üniversiteye başlamıştı. Çok geçmeden disiplin suçuyla Lyle okuldan uzaklaştırıldı. Jose yine araya girerek durumu toparlamaya çalışmış ama bu sefer başaramamıştı. Şimdi boşta kalan Lyle daha çok başını belaya sokuyordu. Baba Jose Menendez vasiyetini tekrar gözden geçirdi. Artık öldükten sonra tüm mal varlığının oğullarına kalması konusunda şüpheleri vardı. Oğullarına böyle giderlerse mirastan men edileceklerini söyledi. Her şeyi başlatan bu tehdit olacaktı. Anne Kitty de çocukları konusunda endişeliydi. Sadece Erik ve Lyle değildi onu endişelendiren. Ayrıca kocası Jose'nin metresleriyle uğraşmak zorundaydı. Aile maddiyattan kazandıkça maneviyattan eksilmişti. Erik bir psikiyatristle görüşmeye başlamıştı. Anne Kitty artık oğullarından korkuyordu. Oğullarının sosyopat olduğunu düşünüyordu. Ayrıca ona göre vicdan ve merhamet yoksunuydular. Bu yüzden her şeyi yapabilirlerdi. Öyle ki gece yatarken kapısını kilitleyip kendince önlemler almaya çalışıyordu. 18 Ağustos'ta kardeşler silah satın aldı. 19 Ağustos 1989'da da ailecek bir tekne gezisi yaptılar. Bu gezide Menendez kardeşler eğlenmek yerine kendi aralarında fısır fısır konuşuyorlardı. Bir gün sonra 20 Ağustos 1989'da Menendezlerin evinden 911'e acil bir çağrı yapıldı.
Yes, police. What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem? Someone killed my parents. Pardon me? Someone killed my parents. What? Who? Are they still there? Yes. The people... No. Were they shot? Yes, man, were they shot? Yes. They were shot? Yes. What happened? Is the person still there? What happened? We have units around. What happened? Who shot who? I don't know anything. I just came home. You came home and found who shot? Mom and Dad. You know if they're still in the house, the people that did the shooting. Get away from them. Okay.
Görünüşe göre eve giren kişiler bir nefret cinayeti işlemişti. Jose Menendez başının arkasından, anne Kitty kollarından, kaçamasın diye bacaklarından ve yüzünden vurulmuştu. Kurşunların geliş şekli birden fazla katil olabileceğini gösteriyordu. Ailelerinin öldürülmesinden sonra sigortadan da aldıkları parayla kardeşler gününü gün etmeye başladı. Binlerce dolarlık saatler, arabalar, hatta bir kafe satın alındı. Erik psikiyatristine cinayet işlediklerini itiraf edene kadar da bu harcama çılgınlığı devam etti. Cinayetten 6,5 ay sonra yakalanan kardeşler 1 milyon dolara yakın para harcamışlardı. Kardeşlerin iddiası istismara uğradıklarıydı. Baba Jose, hatta bazen anne Kitty'nin fiziksel tacizine maruz kalıyorlardı.
Our interview took place in the jail's administrative wing, some distance from their cells.
What went through your minds when you heard that verdict? First degree murder, guilty.
That I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison without any possibility of ever getting released. And you're devastated. I was devastated.
Could have been death. Did you think that?
I was terrified that they would give either one of us death, and it's scary.
It's important to you to stay together when you get moved to the state prison?
Very important. That is what's gotten us through these 6 years and through our life. The family that Erik and I grew up in, we had to be there for each other throughout, and it really created a bond that gets us through very rough periods.
Some people might say, why should we put them together? I mean, look what they did. They should be punished as much as possible. Let's separate them. What do you say to that? You know people will say that, some.
There's nothing to say to that. What we did, it was awful, and I wish I could go back. We will spend the rest of our life in prison. But if we're not put in the same prison, there's a good probability I will never see him again.
Do you think the media has portrayed you fairly? A great number of people who think that you two are spoiled brats, that you are evil, that you are monsters. What do you say to them?
That's not who I am, but I can't defend that. Because I came from a family of wealth, it doesn't make me spoiled.
I would be surprised if anybody that was present at the trial and saw the whole thing rather than snippets on the news would feel that.
A jury found you both guilty.
I'm just a normal kid.
Oh, Erik, you're a normal kid who killed your parents.
Yeah, I know.
And you still say you're a normal kid?
Well, I didn't have normal experiences, but I am. I did that, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about what happened and wish that I could take that moment back or change what happened. But it's hard to live with that.
Do you feel remorse?
Tremendous remorse. And I think
there's tremendous pain. I mean, from the second that I got back to the house after the shootings, I saw what happened and I said, this is wrong. This is awful. How could this have happened? I couldn't accept it.
You couldn't accept it, but you called the police. You pretended that you hadn't done it. You cried. You went off on a spending spree. I mean, we all read about it. You bought Rolexes, you bought cars, you didn't say, oh my God, what have I done, and turn yourself in.
Well, that's not really what happened.
Well, I've sort of stuck it all together, but...
Yeah, you did a good job at it. We got back to the house, the police were there, and it was a matter of telling him you did it, or just saying, I don't know who did it. And that's what we did. And if I could go back, perhaps I'd say I did it.
I mean, part of that started from the fact that we waited afterwards, and the police did not come. And in that time that we waited and waited, you know, we did make a bad decision to not have to...
We expected the police to be there. I mean...
You expected the police to come there and arrest you?
12 shots in the middle of Beverly Hills on a Sunday night, and no one calls the police. We're waiting at the house. No one shows up. And I still can't believe it.
So you called the police, but at that point you had already decided...
We had decided not to...
You weren't going to say anything.
We were very stunned, and we felt that we would go to jail, obviously, and it was a selfish reason to just not want to have to go through that.
What about spending the money? You know, cars, watches, invested in businesses, the good life.
Well, it was the same life before or afterwards.
With more money?
With more money, but I didn't know what to do with the money. I went to it got to a point where I have all this money and so much pain. I don't know what to do with it. And eventually,
I would think that you would be in such grief that you wouldn't be able to buy Rolexes and invest in businesses. Explain to me. Let me understand. I'm the public.
I don't think that it's understandable. I mean, people react to some traumatic event like that in different ways.
You went to your psychologist, Dr. Oziel, and told him that you had committed this crime.
It got to a point where I could no longer live. I felt that I was the worst person on earth, and it got to a point where I couldn't live with myself anymore, and I needed help. And so I went to him, and that is what the catalyst was for me getting arrested and Lyle.
Erik came in, and he was extremely agitated and extremely depressed, and he began talking with me about the fact that his parents had been murdered, and that he felt very isolated and very alienated, and he'd lost a lot of weight. He had had some suicidal ideation, and he just began disclosing a lot of things that had to do with feeling depressed and feeling lost.
Did he talk about having dreams?
Yes, he talked about having some nightmares that were very vivid images of his parents being dead, and having images of the scene of having seen them dead.
You've had a lot of therapy.
6 years of intense therapy.
How are you different than the man who came in here?
I'm 6 years older. I'm a lot more mature. I came in here as an 18-year-old kid who didn't know anything about life.
What did you learn about yourself?
I learned I learned what love was about. I learned what love was about because of my grandmother, because of all my relatives who didn't say, "I can't believe you did this." Instead, they said, "Erik, I know who you are. You're not this type of person. You're not the type of person who could do this for no reason." I mean, I killed my parents, and I spent 6 months out there in horrible agony because I had done this. I mean, a year before, I told my mother how much I loved her. I could not have imagined doing this even a week before to her. I adored her. And then suddenly you're arrested.
Lyle, you're looking at your brother like you almost never heard this before. Tell me how you felt.
You know, for me, emotionally being in prison conditions was really not, emotionally was not a shocking difference from the life we had lived, because we lived really a very stressful, fearful life. And to me, it was kind of like, I felt I should be punished.
And between the ages of 6 and 8, did your father have sexual contact with you?
Yes.
And how did it start?
Just started with, after sports practices, he would massage me.
Where would this take place?
In my bedroom.
And how often would this happen?
Like 2 or 3 times a week.
Did you tell your mom?
Yes.
What did you say to your mom?
I told her to tell Dad to leave me alone. And he keeps touching me.
What did your mom say?
She told me to stop it, and that I was exaggerating, and that my dad has to punish me when I do things wrong.
And the massages in your room, how did they begin? And what types of massages were they in the beginning?
Just the body massages.
Like what you got for swimming?
Similar. He would have me strip off my clothes until I was just wearing my underwear and lie down on my stomach.
And would he tell you why he was massaging you?
Yes.
What would he say?
He would say it's just to relieve the stress, because he would say that the stress built up because of sports, and there was so much tension and stress that I would need to do this to relax.
And did you want it to stop?
No.
Why?
Because it was the only time I got to spend alone with my dad. It was the only time I got to be with him and for him to be nice and caring with me.
Did he treat you better than he had in the past?
Yes, he seemed to care about me. He seemed to love me, and yes.
And did he try to anally penetrate you with something else?
He did.
Did you cry?
Yes.
Did you bleed?
Yes. He would put me on my knees, and he would guide me, all my movements, and I would have oral sex with him.
Did you want to do this?
Lyle'ın mahkemedeki ifadesine göre anne Kitty de masum değildi. 10'lu yaşlarındayken oğlunu yatağına davet ediyor ve kendisine dokunmasını istiyordu. Bu defalarca yaşanmıştı. O zamanlar bunun ne tür bir yakınlaşma olduğunu bilmiyordu.
And did you continue to sleep in her bed around this time when you're 11 and 12?
Sometimes.
And sometimes, did you touch your mom?
Yes.
Would your dad be in bed?
Sometimes.
And was there an occasion when he asked you to do something new?
Yes.
And what was it? Would you tell us what it was that he asked you to do?
He took off his underwear, and he had never done that before. And he had me massage the front of him. And
yes.
So I started, I massaged his calves and his thighs, and
did you understand what he meant?
Yes.
And did anything else happen after you touched his genitals?
Yes.
What happened?
I started to rub him, and then he told me to massage him with his mouth.
With his mouth?
With my mouth.
What did you want to be?
I wanted to be like Lyle. I wanted to be as good as Lyle. I wanted to be liked as much as Lyle.
So would you consume a large quantity of lemon every week?
Every day.
And when you're eating all this lemon, did you notice it had any effect on your sense of taste?
Yes.
What would happen?
I wouldn't taste as much.
You wouldn't taste as much of your food?
I did it for a specific purpose, but it didn't seem to work all that well.
What was the purpose for which you were doing it?
So that I wouldn't have to taste my dad's.
Okay.
When you were about 13, did you think that it might be happening to someone else?
Yes.
And who did you think it was happening to?
Eric. And I'm sorry.
And did you do something about it?
Yes.
What did you do?
I talked to my dad.
What did you say to your dad?
I told him that I knew what was going on with him and Eric, and I heard noises, and that I wanted him to leave Eric alone.
And what did he say to you?
He told me that Eric was that Eric made things up sometimes. That we should keep it just between us, or he'd kill me. I just wanted to stop.
You said at some point your father had anal sex with you. Is that right?
Yes.
And how old do you believe you were when that happened?
I was in 6th grade, guess I'm pretty sure I was 12.
Now, you've mentioned earlier that he had made some efforts to accomplish anal intercourse with you that had been unsuccessful because it hurt you?
Yes.
And therefore he had stopped?
Yes.
I was afraid, and my dad didn't want me to.
What did he tell you about telling people?
He just said that it was our secret, that bad things would happen to me if I told anybody.
People might have seen this case very differently if it were a sister that I was protecting or that was involved in this and not a brother.
You know, this whole business of abuse excuse, that you were abused by your parents, sexually abused, emotionally abused by this tough, unyielding father. But there are lots of people who are abused sexually in other ways and they don't kill their parents. And you've been ridiculed for this abuse excuse. What do you say about it?
Abuse excuse is a word that Alan Dershowitz made up, not knowing anything about the case. To simplify it to its simplest degree, if a person is raped, man or woman, and she kills the man who raped her, is it an excuse that the reason she killed him is because she was raped? Of course not. I certainly never felt that what I did was justified or right.
And my brother and I essentially pled guilty.
Eric, you were able to tell your psychologist that you had killed your parents, but you were not able to tell your psychologist that your father had abused you?
Unless you've been molested, you can't realize how hard it is to tell.
Because of shame?
Because of shame.
Describe your relationship with your father. What words come into your mind?
Brutal. Painful. Torturous. And yet I thought that he was the most powerful and brilliant person I had ever met.
I was his firstborn son. That was very important to him. And my bond with him was, I thought, strong because we had been through so much together. But it was difficult to see the things that were going on. And
things that were going on, that is, when you learned that he was sexually molesting your brother?
He had sexually molested me before I was a teenager, and it was a much different experience than Eric's.
Because you were little?
Because I was little, I guess.
You know, there are some questions that everybody asks, like, why didn't you run away?
I wish that I could have. I tried to run away when I was 12, and my father found me. He caught me and said, if you ever run away, I will kill you, I will find you, and I will kill you.
Suppose you left and you, I don't know what, became a waiter and moved away. You still thought he'd find you?
He would find me and probably kill me. I thought for certain he would kill me.
You still think that?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you still think about the night of the murder?
Every day.
You both do? Tell me as clearly as you can why you murdered your parents that night.
First thing that comes to mind is terror. I was so afraid. A few days before, I had said to myself, I am never going to let my father touch me again. I said to myself, I'm never going to let him touch me again. And just before the shootings, my dad told me to get to my room and that he would be there in a minute, and he was going to come up and there was going to be sex, and it was like an explosion in my mind.
But you'd bought the guns. It wasn't something that just happened that moment. You'd thought about it.
No.
You bought the guns in advance. They just weren't in the house.
Yes, we bought the guns in advance.
So this didn't just happen that moment.
We bought the guns. There was a series of confrontations and blow-ups in the house. My dad, when it first was revealed that I had told Lyle about the secret, my dad said to Lyle, you're going to tell everyone, and I'm not going to let that happen.
I cannot separate and say this is why this happened. my father was threatening us, and so there was fear, but there was great, there was anger on my part, and my mother was aware of and had allied herself with my father, and this happened all in just 3 days, and I wish I'd give anything to just turn back that one page of my life.
The other big question. You killed your father, who was molesting you. Why did you kill your mother?
On Thursday night before, in one of the explosions, I was running downstairs and I was crying, and my mother was on the couch and she had been drinking, and she said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Nothing, nothing, you wouldn't understand." And she said, "Oh, I understand. What do you think, I'm stupid?" And she told me that she knew, that she had known all my life what my father was doing. And I just saw Dad and Mom as the same person at that point. I saw them as a single person.
And really the first time that this secret about what was happening with Dad and Erik was discussed openly in the family in a very angry way. I don't know about Erik, but I completely lost control myself. And in that time, I didn't separate. I knew my mother and my father. it was just adrenaline and fear and anger. I
lost control.
There is no explanation.
But
we don't offer one.
You had thought about this earlier because you had bought the garden several days before.
We knew that this could end, a violent confrontation could occur because my father had threatened my life.
The extent to which the family looked perfect, like the ideal family to the outside world, but that in reality, that it was a disastrously negative family. That the marriage between the two parents was a very terrible marriage. That the mother and father had almost no relationship except a negative and emotionally abusive relationship, with the father being. They were concluding that they really didn't kill their parents for money, but out of the hatred that they had, in particular towards their father, and to be free from all of the abusive and onerous characteristics that the father had, dominating them, having them feel inadequate, inferior, exacting impossible standards, controlling their life, so on and so forth. He told me that that several days before the murder, that Erik said that he began to feel bad because he began to notice that his mother was getting very nervous and agitated and began locking the doors to the bedroom, and he felt that she probably had a sense that something very ominous was going to happen to her, and that's why she, in a sense, knew that it was going to happen, and that's why she began locking the door. He acknowledged that he fired the shots that actually killed his mother in the end.
I got Lyle into this. I went to him and I said, "Lyle, I can't live anymore with what's going on," and got him involved. He was way to go. They had bought him a condominium. He was going to Princeton. He had all the money.
So it's your fault for telling your brother?
It's my fault. And I got him involved and said, "I need your help." And 5 days later, my parents were dead.
So it's your fault?
That's completely my fault.
You get a lot of mail?
We still get a tremendous amount of mail.
Hundreds?
We've gotten hundreds, thousands over the years.
We asked your lawyers to give us a sample of some of your letters. A great many of them seem to deal with from people who have been abused themselves and relate to you. Lyle, what do you say to people who write to you?
I wanted to say to them to not lose hope because of this one case and this one verdict. Very unique situation here, and that this does not mean that if they go get help, people won't believe them, or people will treat them harshly, or they'll be ridiculed. I don't feel they will be.
That's not to say do what we did. Don't do what we did, but don't.
Do you also get love letters?
Yeah, some.
You find that strange?
It's a strange phenomenon that a lot of love letters come in from people that don't know you at all.
Do either one of you have girlfriends? Do either one of you have someone who cares particularly about you now at this point in your life?
I do. I have someone who I love very much, and is a saint to put up with everything that comes with this.
Can you tell us who she is?
Yeah, her name is Anna Erickson, and I hope that we can get married. Even though it's a very limited relationship because of where we are, the exchange of love and sharing, it keeps you in touch with yourself and softer, and you know, otherwise you can become very hard and cold in here.
Is this someone you knew before prison?
No.
This is someone who began to write to you and meet you?
She wrote me many years ago, but and I've come to know her well, but just someone that I met through the mail.
And she wants to marry you?
And she does.
Eric?
No, not at the moment.
You're not going to meet a lot in prison, Eric.
No, I probably won't. It's hard. Lyle's more able to have that type of relationship.
Eric, you know that the prosecutor brought up the fact that you might have been a homosexual and that this might have caused some of the fury on your father's part.
Yes, he did.
I didn't hear about girlfriends.
They were there.
I guess what I just have to say to you is, are you gay?
No. No, the prosecutor brought that up because I was sexually molested, and he felt in his own thinking that if I was sodomized by my father, that I must have enjoyed it, and therefore I must be gay, and the people that are gay out there must be sexually molested or they wouldn't be. Felt, and it was upsetting to hear, but I'm not gay, but a lot of gay people write and feel connected to me.
A problem at the trial was the gender bias, that because we were dealing with males and in an incest family, that there's sort of perceptions that, well, maybe it was something that he wanted, something that he allowed to happen.
If you could say something to your mother and your father, I'm sure you have in your own minds, what would you say?
I am so sorry. I forgive them completely for anything they have done to us. If I had one wish, it would be able to have one conversation with them.
I hope someday that I can be with them and have some sort of conversation about what happened. It is one of the awful things is that we couldn't communicate that weekend, and I can't. And just that I love them, and you know, that I believe, despite everything that happened, that they really loved us, and that things just went awry.
Saatlerce süren görüşmelerde uzmanlar Lyle'ın tacize uğradığına inandıklarını söyledi. Erik'in ise anlattıklarına inanmadılar. Fakat Erik Menendez'in 6 yaşındaykenki doktor raporuna ulaştılar. Boğazı yara olduğu için doktora görünmüştü. O dönem bunun üzerine düşmediler ve normal bir boğaz tahrişi olarak geçti. Fakat mahkemede bu, çocuk istismarına bağlı olarak yaşanan bir oral tahriş olarak kabul edildi. Başka bir doktor ise illaki her boğaz yarasını istismar olarak değerlendiremeyeceklerini söyledi. Ne yazık ki taciz iddiaları yetersiz bulundu. Kesin bir kanıt yoktu ve böylece ömür boyu müebbet hapis cezasına çarptırıldılar. Akrabaları Jose ve Kitty'nin çocuklarını taciz ettiklerine inanmadığını söylüyor. Onlar 2 şımarık çocuklarını disipline edemeyen ebeveynlerdi. Lyle ve Erik açgözlü, doymak bilmeyen arsız çocuklardı. Belki tek hataları oğullarını iyi yetiştirememekti. Sonrası çorap söküğü gibi gelmişti.
Deputies now arrived to take Erik and Lyle Menendez back to the cell blocks. They were handcuffed and chained for the long walk back. Their legs had been shackled throughout the interview. This had been one of their infrequent opportunities to see one another in jail. The guards would now take each of them to their separate cells and to the certainty of the rest of their lives.